This segment featuring Ginter's Pope is sponsored by John Musgrove.
Louis Ginter had a huge impact on Richmond, and his legacy continues to live on. Author John Musgrove from Quarter Mile Press is here to talk about the accomplishments that Mr. Ginter made. And good morning to you.
Good morning.
This is quite a guy. If you know Richmond history, then you're going to know about Louis Ginter. His impact on Virginia is huge. The Jefferson Hotel is one of the things that comes to most people's mind. What else?
He invented the trading card. He decided that the putting a stiff card into a cigarette pack would stop them from breaking in the gentleman's pockets. And of course, it became a worldwide craze. Everybody wants to have that collectible card now.
Wow.
And they're still in existence. They're high quality, beautiful images.
Yeah. Wow, I see. I learned something today. Also, electric trolley, which Richmond was on the forefront of that, and he was involved in that. He was
one of the original investors, which became Virginia Power. They were trying to switch over the gas lights down the streets into electric, and then he saw an opportunity and powered his trolleys to his neighborhoods.
So Louis Ginter came to Richmond at a very young age and almost instantly became a success, didn't he?
Oh, he was a business acumen. He knew what to do and how to sell to people. So he arrived when he was 18. He opened a toy store, and he would open the toys and let the kids play with them.
All right, from the time he arrived, he was very successful. He became extremely wealthy, didn't he?
He did. He had a partner, John Allen, said, "Come with me and we're going to sell tobacco." At that point, most tobacco was only sold in pouches for cigars and pipes.
Like that, yeah.
But he said, "Let's do cigarettes because they're more portable." But that's when you have to have the trading card. And of course, by the time he died, he was the richest man in Virginia at the level of the Astors, the Vanderbilts. Huge amounts of money.
Wow. Yeah, he did pretty well. All right, so he had an interesting personal life. I read years ago an article, they described him as a dandy. Explain that for us.
Well, we use the term confirmed bachelor. He never married. He never really showed an interest in women, although he treated them very well through society. And on a trip to New York, he discovered a young man that he fell in love with. So John Pope was 18. He convinced the boy's family to let him move to Richmond, made him his protege, made him his live-in friend, and they lived together for 22 years as a couple.
Wow. Obviously, at that point, this guy had a lot of money and a lot of power, so he could pretty much do whatever he wanted and still get along in that society at that time?
Well, absolutely. One, he's incredibly generous. So he's giving, large tracts of lands to churches and the seminary. He would help anybody that asked. But he was also so rich that they really couldn't do anything.
Yeah. Let's talk about Louis Ginter Garden, Botanical Garden, and where does that figure in to his life, or does it?
Louis had an aversion to naming anything for himself, so he named the Jefferson because that was his idol, Thomas Jefferson. His niece left the money in her will in 1926 to build the garden in his honor. He never knew about it. He probably doesn't like it today, as much as we love the garden, but it was not his idea.
Yeah. But such a huge figure in Richmond history, and obviously an interesting life. You said in the book that he was heartbroken when this young man
absolutely,
passed away. He was much younger than him.
Yes, he was 25, 30 years younger than him.
And obviously affected by that. The culture, the philanthropy, all the stuff that Louis Ginter did in Virginia is looming large. And if I'm correct, is he buried in Hollywood Cemetery?
He is in Hollywood Cemetery in his own mausoleum. If you go on a sunny day, you can see the light gleaming through the Tiffany glass windows. Wow. It's amazing.
Wow. Amazing guy, and obviously a huge part of Richmond. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Looking forward to the book. The name of the book is?
Ginter's Pope.
Ginter's Pope. There we go. All right. For more information, visit quartermilepress.com. Get that today. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.